Good morning, good evening to everyone who's calling in. So, welcome to From Lebanon with Love, a regenerative online conversation during wartime. So, this call is another collaboration between Language for Justice, OGA, and the Permaculture in Palestine initiative. So we're very grateful to have live interpretation in four languages provided by interpreters from Language for Justice. So I'd like to invite Anna from Language for Justice to explain how to turn on the live interpretation and to present L for J and OGA. And also instructions will be shared in your language in the chat right now for turning on the interpretation. Anna?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's always a pleasure to be, in these PePa events. We feel this connection and this energy. We're very grateful. So, just about language interpreting, if you see on your Zoom tab, there should be the three dots, more, or a little globe. So if you can click on that, and then you'll see the different options of the languages available. So you have Italian, you have Arabic, you have French and Spanish. So you pick the one you want, and then you'll be listening to interpreting those languages as well. Also, we have automatic subtitles, which you can also switch in if needed. But yeah, we'll be recording this, and it's great. And speaking of AUGA and Language for Justice, I do have a small presentation, but it's okay. I'll just be very brief. So we are a decolonial collective. So AUGA stands for Opportunities for Grassroots Action, because we noticed that in this activism space, people do want to help, but we don't know how. So we wanted to connect that. So makers and movements. So we support projects from the global majority. And one of these projects, is Language for Justice, which is I'm an interpreter and a linguist, and Daniela also, who you'll meet shortly. She is a DEI speaker, so we thought this was necessary, and we wanted to do that. So then we created it, and we had a first cohort last summer, in which we trained Palestinian students into the notions of what translating and interpreting is. And it was amazing. We had around 30 participants, and 12 of them actually got certified, and now we see them, they joined. We have one of them here with us today, and now they're getting jobs. One of them is working for Médecins Sans Frontières, which is great because that's what we do. We're going to be having the second one shortly. And with that, we started getting support for live events, because we see a lot of these events, such as the one today. Not everyone can speak English, and we feel these voices need to be amplified. The message should be amplified. So we created Language for Justice, and it blew away. So literally, we had, we had very humble beginnings, and now we have registered almost 400 linguists in our volunteer pool. And yes, and I want to take the chance here to thank every one of you who are here in the different languages. Maybe if I don't mention you all, but these people are amazing. And it's so humbling, because I see many of them who are professionals who have been working their whole lives, and they say, this feels different. This feels like a purpose. So yeah, and that's what PePa is. That's what, supporting Levant. And yeah, just always count on us if you need support with your grassroots projects. If you want, your events to be, if you need maybe like one of the things we're doing as well, capacity building. So two sisters from PePa who collaborate, we're already helping them with Spanish. So they started studying through a volunteer teacher for us as well. So that's it. So very thankful. We're with you. Don't feel like you are alone. We care. And yeah, anything, just I'll add the websites here, but we're here for you, and Alfred knows us. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And let me know if you can see the language interpreting, or if anything, we'll be here. We can guide you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Anna. So everyone is invited to open the chat and say hello and where you're calling in from. and we'll be here today for about an hour and a half. If you need any help with the tech or the interpretation, don't hesitate to write in the chat, and we'll be there to support you.
We've
So,
also we've added instructions in the different languages as well on how to access the interpreting. So it's in the chat.
great. Uh, so my name is Alfred, and I collaborate with the Permaculture in Palestine initiative, which is linking the permaculture movement with solidarity for Palestine, and also with Permaculture for Refugees, an international network. And I'm pleased to see the co-founder of Permaculture for Refugees, Rosemary Morrow, here on the chat. Welcome, Rosemary, calling in from Australia. So just briefly, the idea for this particular call, which is one in a series of these online conversations, is that some weeks ago I was talking with some friends here in Barcelona about all of the horrific news happening in the Levant, in Iran, and elsewhere, and we were talking about, but you know what, we've heard so much horrible news, and it's just overwhelming. But what about the positive news? And what are people doing that is a positive response to the destruction? And I thought about our colleagues in Lebanon, who are doing really positive, really impactful work during the war. So then I talked to my colleague, Habiba Youssef, who I'll pass it over to in just a moment, about let's organize another call and invite our colleagues from Lebanon to present their work, because we got to know them through permaculture courses, two different, a permaculture design course and a permaculture teacher training. And we continue to be very, very inspired by what they're doing. So I will pass it over to Habiba to present herself and take it from there.
Thank you, Alfred. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm also very pleased to see again my colleagues and friends, what we call the Lebanese crew also. Hello again. I am Habiba. I am from Lebanon. I've been living in Spain for a long time now. I'm also part of Permaculture for Refugees, as Alfred say, is an international network of practitioners of permaculture that apply permaculture in refugee, displacement, migration contexts. And through this organization, we developed several courses with people who are permaculturists who would like to work in these kind of situations, let's say. And through this, of course, PePa also was created. And I would just like to begin a bit to put in context. It's true that maybe it's a bit negative, but I'm going to go through it before we go to the more regenerative and resilient and positive experiences that our colleagues are going to present today here. So the context right now is what is being called the burned land, the politic, let's say, that Israel is applying, especially to the south and east of Lebanon. Right now, it has occupied, after the last war, it is occupying a good part of the south and the east part, and applying there many chemicals and to really kill the land over there and kill any kind of social fabric of people's life that might be there. Of course, one of the main objectives of this occupation is the control of natural resources that Lebanon has, mainly the gas that is offshore in the sea and the Litani River that they occupied right now also. So this is like one of the main objectives, no, that this state has in the occupation of Lebanon. I just wanted to pass also to put in context all the acts of resistance that our friends are doing in Lebanon. And this politics of the burned land, really what it's doing is that the south and the east part, the part that are being occupied and others, are really agricultural lands. People are there, are mainly farmers. They do have other occupations, of course, but a lot of people are farmers or have lands. And these accumulated wars that are happening, really, they are having an effect of destroying or the social fabric that exists or the society that exists there. It is true that the agriculture that mainly a part of little examples, mainly it's conventional agriculture that depends a lot of initial investments like seeds or fertilizers or whatever. And a lot of people are losing a lot of money, a lot of livelihood right now by the displacement, by all the crops that are being destroyed, being by the chemicals or and a lot of people are not able to come back to their land, no, to their life that is being destroyed. So it is in this context that this talk is being, and all these acts that our friends are going to present right now are really acts of resistance, because resistance is not only weapon and armed resistance, it's very viable options of resistance that we are going to see right now. And after the different presentations, I think we have 4 presentations, we can have a round of answer questions and answers or option or whatever. So I'll just leave now the floor to our friends as you want to organize yourselves. And maybe I don't know who wanted to begin.
Thank you so much, Habiba. Maybe we thought first to have a quick round of intro of each of us, and then I can take it from there. So I'm Yara. I'm from Lebanon, from Beirut, and I currently live, it's been 6 years in the mountains in a village called Kfar that's up north in Lebanon. And I work in an organization called Jibal that works on environmental and social justice. And I've also been cultivating this land that I've been living in for the past 6 years. And I'm also part of a collective of seed savers and food sovereignty activists with Basima and Natasha and others, where we work on the topic of heirloom seeds and seed sovereignty in particular, with an initiative called Buzuruna Juzuruna. I don't know if you've heard of them. That's in the PePa. That's me. I'll pass it to Basi.
Hi everyone. So I'm Basima. I'm currently in Beirut, living between the Bekaa and Beirut at the moment. And I'll talk today about our initiative that is called Roots of Resistance, and I'll also say a word about Buzurna Juzurna's farm. I'll pass it to Sashu.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see familiar and new faces. My name is Natasha. I'm based in Lebanon, but I'm currently in Prague on residency. I've been here for a few days. I'm a freelance artist mostly. I work in performance art and movement. I also work with children, and I'm part of the Heirloom Seed Collective with Yara and Basima, and also part of the Lebanon Solidarity Collective. I'll pass it on to Bulos.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bulos, and also such a pleasure to see all of you and to feel the energy of everyone gathering for this conversation. So thank you, all of you, for being here, for your presence in this, in sharing this today. I'm originally from the south of Lebanon, but I grew up outside and found my way back about 8 years ago, and currently living between Beirut and the Shuf region. And I currently work at the Beirut Art Center, which I will share with you later on. The focus of my work is really about how to really reweave together land practice with craft and storytelling and kind of the materialities through which we reconnect to our cosmologies with the land. I'll pass it on to Hassoun.
Thank you, Bulus. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be part of the meeting. I'm Hassan from Lebanon. Originally, I come from South Lebanon. I'm a designer, interior architect, and permaculture designer, a cook, and a father. and I work under the name Alchemia now, which combines all these elements together. So thank you so much again, and happy to be part of this. I'll pass it to you.
So, Habiba, thank you for giving the context. So I just wanted to add a few things before we jump into our initiatives that I'm sure most of us know on this call, but the war didn't start right now. It started many years ago. I mean, the history is very long, but specifically the escalation in the current war started at the same time as the war in Gaza in October 2023, and specifically in the south for a very long time. And then a year later, we were actually going on our way to the permaculture design course with Alfred. And that's when the escalation started all the way to Beirut in 2024 for 2-3 months. And then again, we went into a sort of a status quo where we were in a ceasefire that was constantly being not respected by Israel. I think it was around 10,000 infractions in the south, and a lot of regions were still occupied in the south. There was a lot of destruction. A lot of people weren't able to go back to their homes. And then again, a year and a half later, 2 months ago in 2026, there was another escalation. And so it's been almost 3 years that we're in this situation that's really a constant thing that in different levels we live them, whether we come from different areas in Lebanon. And this war specifically, there was 1.2 million people that got displaced. And it was still in the winter, so people were camping in many areas in Beirut, by the shore, in very residential areas also, and they didn't have any place to go. The shelters were very full, and they stayed, and they're still in this situation, even though now there's a so-called ceasefire that's not being respected also. The south is still being targeted daily, and like Habiba said, there's 55 villages now in the southern borders that are completely occupied by the Israeli army. And yeah, so we're still very much in it, and it's at least for me, and I think for many of us, it's the first time we're presenting or talking about the situation. It's a bit hard to not have this step back because we're still very much in it. And it's really a day-by-day situation where we don't know what's going to happen. And we still receive a lot of really bad news. And I mean, again, depending on where we live this thing on different levels. So yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight. And yeah, Bess, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, maybe to jump on this, on what you said and what Habiba said as a context, it definitely has been a continuity, but it also has been like a systematic destruction of our capacity to stay where we live and to feed ourselves, to just live actually. We see what happened recently. It was definitely a war on agriculture where like, as you mentioned, there was a lot of lands that have been attacked. I think 22% of our farmlands are under attack with white phosphorus, glyphosate, bombings. And this is not only to attack right now our agricultural system, but it's also on the long term to prohibit us to come back to lands where we've been planting and that would allow us to stay there and to feed ourselves. And maybe just to complete a bit the portrait of what is happening even right now during the ceasefire. As we know, it hasn't been respected, but it also has been a war on paramedics, where hundreds paramedics, healthcare workers have been killed, and a war also on reporters. Even just like a couple days ago, Amal Khalil got deliberately striked in the south when she was reporting, and allowing actually for people to see what is going on in the south, where people are actually living still, you know. So all of this maybe just to say that like it has been techniques to not allow us to stay where we want to be. And obviously, it's not only in Lebanon, it's also in Palestine, it has been also in Iran. And it's just also to mention that, you know, it's not the same places, but we're facing the same aggressors right now, which is the Zionist entities, but also the US imperialism and all their accomplices. So that's a little depressing portrait, but now we can move on something that is a bit more hopeful.
Yeah, I wanted to share something, I think, before we go on to each share more deeply about how we're living the situation, what our initiatives are, and how people who are interested can be of support or in collaboration. I just want to recognize, you know, what was shared earlier by Yara, that this is, I think, the first time for many of us from speaking outwardly about what we've been living the last month and a half. And I think it's really an ode to Alfred and Habiba and Rosemary and the containers that you have created over time, and your continued presence and your continued insistence of situating the world of permaculture and these conversations in the context of you know, where I think we see really at the root they're under attack. And I really, really appreciate that. And I think I think it needs to be said over and over, you know, the appreciation for all of you and what you're holding and the space you've held for us over the last few years. So I want to just share that on behalf of all of us. And also for everyone who has joined also, we wanted to share like just a question to hold with you, or a point of reflection to carry with you that we can discuss later in the question and answers. But of really, what do these crises mean? You know, what does it mean to live through this? What does it mean to witness this? What does it mean to be resilient through this? You know, it can be almost, I think, in spaces that don't hold nuance, these narratives can become like a loop. And I think these loops, they lose the nuance of this very present moment and the destruction, but also the immense possibility and the immense permission for us to reorganize the way we relate to one another and the way we support one another. And the way we define the things around us that we've held as normal for so long. So I think, again, you know, permaculture for refugees, for example, gives a context of how to relate with permaculture and relate with these concepts as the deepest form of solidarity and belonging for all, wherever they find themselves on whichever land, based on the violences they have lived. So I guess the question to hold, I would invite, is what is this moment inviting each one of us to redefine in the way we relate to one another and to permaculture? And I'll pass it to Bassi to share about roots of resistance.
So maybe before talking about the personal initiatives that we all are supporting, I'm gonna present a bit the movement, because what we're each one doing is not you know, specific to what we're doing. It's really part of a whole network of people that are moving right now, which is really very inspiring and really hopeful to see how quickly we're able to answer in times of emergency. We can't really quantify it. It's a huge amount of initiatives. It's hundreds of initiatives together, and to face like a really big problem, because first of all, it's like more than 1 million displaced, but also because of the neglect of our government that hasn't been stepping up to answer the emergency. So to be honest, we have been very efficient. It has been beautiful to see how the movement have been growing because it's not the first time. It's since last war, people have been on the ground supporting the initiatives. People have been also in 2020 during the blast. So the civil society had to step up, and people have been gaining a lot of knowledge, a lot of capacities to answer this immense movement, this immense need. But the sad part also is that like it shouldn't be specifically on the shoulders of the people only to do that. But this is what we're seeing. It's that we only have one another to be able to support each other. Sasha, I don't know if you want to add something.
Maybe I can just add that unfortunately, we've lived through many crises and aggressions along these last few years, but it's also gave us experience on which we kind of developed. So there's this, I mean, since we lived this mass displacement, this mass aggression a bit more than a year ago, some systems were established that kind of got activated when the aggression started again a few weeks ago. So I mean, despite the horrors, it's really beautiful to see how so many people step up and reactivate those links that kind of dissipate and come back, and while also giving the space for certain people who were super active before to rest if they don't have the capacity, and other people to come and fill in the gaps. And this kind of organic mobilization has been, for me on a personal level, like the main thing keeping me going. Just really seeing so many beautiful people that haven't been asked anything, just coming and doing whatever it is that they're able to, but really kind of organizing. I mean, just witnessing the difference between the last aggression and this one, there really has been a lot of effort to just maximize the the work we're doing and the funds that we're receiving in order to help as much as possible and for waste to not to happen and such things. So I think now we're each gonna go through and tell you a bit about our personal initiatives that we're part of. I think Bessie, you're gonna start.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about Roots of Resistance, which is not a collective. It's a bit of an accident that emerged in 2024. We were in Montreal with 4 other beautiful women linked to Lebanon and to agriculture, and some of us just left war, and we decided to do something and talk and organize an event. It happened just after the ceasefire. And which is an interesting moment to do fundraisers because it's not the best moment. But surprisingly, we got a lot of funds, and I think that this was very inspiring to understand that like we can actually gather people's energy together to gather resources to support people on the ground, even from the outside. And so when this re-escalation happened, we were already on the ground trying to gather together like the needs and resources. And we realized that we needed more money to be efficient. And so that's how we extended a bit the hands towards the outside. And we concretized a bit the bridges with organizers outside. And people did show up. I think this is a beautiful thing of this year that we've all been realizing is that people did show up a lot and shared the initiatives and donated and organized events from all around the world, which has been able to like, to be honest, to make us walk and to stand up and to keep on going as a whole movement, you know. So we did this fundraiser, which is helping also to support Buzurna Juzurna's distribution. So a word maybe on Buju, it's a farm in the Bekaa. It's a mix between a Syrian, Lebanese, and French team together. They are seed savers, as Yara said earlier, and they're also a big pillar of agroecology in Lebanon. And they've been doing distribution since forever, but they also do wire distribution to collective kitchens. And I think it's maybe not only the reality of our initiative, but as the movement in general, we realize with this re-escalation that emergency answer is crucial, but actually we have to look further than this, because war is not only, it's not only bombings, it's not only people sleeping in the streets, it's also like life that is going afterwards. It's also, war is also the ceasefire. It's also people going back to their lands that have been, rebels in their house becoming rebels, or a lot of, like, it's not only present, it's really on the long term. So we decided to separate a bit what we're doing in two parts. One that is the emergency relief, so basically mattresses, blankets, warm clothing, and stuff that we don't think about, like socks, underwear, pads. And we've been focusing a lot on people that have been the most vulnerable in this situation, which is people that are sleeping either in the streets or that are in overcrowded apartments. Because also a good thing to mention is that only 20% of the displaced people have been sheltered in official shelters. So 80% are just out there in the wild. We don't know, there's no quantification of who is where and how to support them. So this whole movement of mutual aid have been trying to fill up the cracks. And so, yes, and the second part that we've been working on is food autonomy. It's how to support people's capacity to feed themselves, because in the emergency answer, a lot of community kitchen have been emerging, which has been amazing work, and it's really impressive to see how restlessly they're working, like cooking 2-3 meals a day since 2 months, and not only since 2 months, but since 2 years. And before that, also, most of them started during the Beirut blast in 2020. So it has been like a long, long run. And it's an amazing work, but it's not a sustainable one. It's people that at some point, like, we're seeing how there's a shift right now where some of the collective kitchen, it's been 2 months they're cooking, and so now they're closing. And so we're trying to support this shift to capacitate people to cook for themselves. So that means bringing gas into their into houses where people have been displaced. It's supporting also migrant community kitchens, people that are supporting their own community, It's also, for example, Bujo has been supporting 22 kitchens in the last couple of weeks, in the last 2 months. Another project we had was to install a sage in Biel, which is one of the encampments that has been hosting around 4,000 people. It's on the waterfront of Beirut, and it's basically a parking lot that became full of tents. And so we installed a sage so people can cook for themselves and have fresh manaish every day. So that's a bit what we've been doing. I'm gonna let la parole to who's next now, to express a bit what they're doing also.
Thank you, Bassoum. So I will talk a little bit of the work we've been doing as part of the Lebanon Solidarity Collective. So basically, as we mentioned before, the Israeli aggression started as of the 8th of October, 2023. And at first, it was a gradual thing. So there were initial attacks on the border villages in the south of Lebanon. So people started slowly being displaced or losing their jobs and such. So a few months after that, we kind of gathered the first members of the Solidarity Collective. And at first, it was a response of solidarity to people who were still in the south or who were displaced. And we started doing an open call to gather funds. At first, it was from Lebanon, and then we started reaching out to abroad with the help of some people who are here in this call, actually. So it really kind of grew very slowly as things were happening. We were providing people with help to pay rent and a lot of people couldn't work anymore or had lost their jobs, and just food parcels, clothes, anything that was just kind of in kind solidarity as well. And then when the aggression escalated in 2024, so did the group. So from a few people, we became, in a certain group chat, we became hundreds. And then we had a core team, and we were trying to respond to the needs as they came. And so sometimes we do work in a big scale, but mostly it's been based on solidarity and trust, and just meet, like, a lot of people that we first responded to were just friends of friends, acquaintances, just because, it's entire communities that are displaced. So and a lot of the members of the collective are from the south and were living there. So it was personal relationships, and just extended people from the community, and it kind of grew from there. And as I said, we work a lot on trust and solidarity. So actually, we've been collaborating with all kinds of other organizations on the ground since the beginning. So with all the initiatives that are going to be mentioned now through all my friends, we've been kind of working together. And the thing is that things shift so fast, and we just have to adapt as we go. So we kind of have a system of meeting weekly and deciding what needs to be done as much as possible. But we've been doing a lot of primary mutual aid, just helping people with medical expenses, getting medication, mattresses, blankets, food, all that. But it's it's something that's a bit hard to quantify, and I think when you're living it on the ground, I like, some days it's just delivery, some days it's ordering a huge order of mattresses, some days it's cooking, some days, and each day, for me at least, it feels like a year during the war. So um, yeah, but again, as I said previously, it's been really beautiful to witness, also how much we've grown and how much we've learned from. Unfortunately, we've had to. So the first time we got really active was in 2024, and then we had this ceasefire, which this so-called ceasefire, which is bringing me to this other initiative that we took on. So when the ceasefire came, you can imagine we were very burnt out and exhausted, but the situation was clearly still very difficult, and we still wanted to respond, but on a longer term. So just to reiterate, there was a 2024 aggression, which was very severe, and then the so-called ceasefire lasted for a little bit more than a year, until a few weeks ago. And during that time, we were meeting on regular. Well, no, actually, we needed a bit of rest, and then we tried to meet to find more long-term solutions, and that's when we started to implement, or fund at least, the bioremediation project, which was led by one of the members of our collective, Hadi Awada, who also participated in the teacher training in Barcelona. And actually, during that training, I think it was the first time he met with Leila Darwish, who's a bioremediation specialist, introduced by Alfred and Rosemary, I think. So thank you. And I think they've been in contact a lot since, and they have developed their work a lot. Yara has been very supportive in this project, so she can also talk about it more. But basically, as you know, the earth and soil have been contaminated, and it was about the work of trying to heal the earth again. And at the moment, so Haji was still living in the south, and at the moment this project is halted because the area where the facility was supposed to happen is now either occupied or just inaccessible. But I have faith that this project will continue in some shape or form, and I refuse to believe that we will not go back to those lands. So it's halted. We don't know for how long, but it's still something that we're looking to work on. So when things happened again a few weeks ago, where we've been really active since, and just trying to respond as best as we can. I think that's enough for now. So I will pass it on to the next person, which is
It's Hassan, I think.
Hassan.
Thank you, Sashu. I'm gonna start with the pandemic and the blast and everything, which made me think of how to sustain life in times of crisis and war. And as we said, like Lebanon has witnessed many changes and many crises from that time until we reached 2024 with the last escalation. And it made me leave the land in a way and focus on cooking, as Alchemia is a cook and a farmer and a designer. So back then, I felt the urge of like acting from that place. And when the escalation went into ceasefire for 15 months, relatively, it made me think of how can we act as farmers, as permaculture practitioners to the situation, because as we all know, permaculture requires a little bit a certain stability, like to have a physical stable place or stable emotion or stable state. And this made me raise a lot of questions to ask, how do we grow food in times of war and crisis, especially for people and farmers from South? And also, how can we reach lands and communities, and how can we find resilience in uncertainty? So these questions were a lot in my head, and as a farmer, I want to act upon these questions. So in these 15 months, I was trying to design a system with my friends to help a little bit in like delivering compost to south, to small farmers, to small gardens, and in which that will rehabilitate the soil in a way. And this time, with the last escalation in 2026 that we are still witnessing now, um, we started developing an idea which is called permaculture in times of war, which is a permaculture mobile system and a community kitchen. So combining these two elements together. And, it's not just about growing food and land rehabilitation. It's about caring about people, respecting the ethics of permaculture, and trying to transform a little bit with the dynamic, with how can we act upon it in a way. So, yeah, this time we are trying to mobilize these practices and reach people through the mobile permaculture system that requires to deeply listen to people's need and to their grief, to their unstable emotion, and en parallel of like transmitting the knowledge and the necessary tools and equipments and practices that they can use maybe, or they can learn about in terms of permaculture practices. So we are launching this project soon, which is mobilizing all these activities, uh, which are designed according to permaculture principles and ethics. And through the mobile, we are intending to like buy a van, and then in which we're gonna like travel around Lebanon and reach the communities and people in need. So it's food production, it's ethics, it's shared meals, cooking, and reaching out, maybe uh, provide services, especially for farms, small scale farmers, that now we are facing. We have seasons and we have practices according to each season, like olive picking, like apple picking and all these practices that are seasonal, and most of the farmers are depending on this for their livelihood, for sustaining their projects and practices in a way. So this project intends to help and to reach out and support and distribute like knowledge and resources, sharing all these resources, caring and protecting the lands that we have. Like, I'm not thinking about how to grow the project now and how to amplify it, but I'm trying to protect what we have and from there act slowly and then step by step. So yeah, it was critical for me to talk about sustainability in a way, and we are facing unstable flow and unstable dynamic, and suddenly it's out of our control. Yeah, everything will go to destruction, and we repeat again. So this question is still there. I'm still figuring out how to act. Soon we're gonna launch this project, starting from June, hopefully, and we see how it will take shape and form physically and emotionally. So that's for now. Mhm. And thank you. I pass it to Yara.
Yeah. Thank you, Hassoun. It's nice to hear all my friends talk about their process and initiatives. Thank you for holding that space. I'm not going to take too much time. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and this organization called Jibal I talked about earlier. So Jibal is an NGO, so it's a very small NGO. We're 10 people all working part-time, 2 to 3 days a week. And we started also at the beginning of the economic crisis around 2019, and we've always wanted to bridge environmental justice and social justice, and really tackling the environmental components not just from a technical point, but really from a social point of view as well, as these things obviously are not we cannot separate. And during each war, we have long-term projects that are there to, we focus a lot on the topic of food sovereignty, on how can we center farmers and people in the decision-making process of how we want our food system to look like in Lebanon, especially after all these crises that we're witnessing, but also COVID that we witnessed worldwide. Lebanon imports 80% of we import 80% of our food, even though we have a very diverse climate. So that makes us very sensitive, vulnerable to obviously any situation and any war. And we already are witnessing it now with the rise of food prices and fuel prices. It's really something. Even though we have a very diverse climate and we can really grow a lot our own subsistence, but we've been focusing a lot on cash crops and on export crops. Obviously, I think it's not just a case of Lebanon, but it's really a worldwide issue. And so Jibal has been trying to really create alternative systems of food production that are more localized and that are really trying to the governance to be very, very participative so that the people concerned, farmers specifically, and consumers can really have a say in that. But also during each war, we adapt to the situation, and sometimes we can't just have a foot in the long-term things, but really be in the emergency response. And so last war, I'm going to talk about this war because otherwise it's too long, but now since this escalation in 2026, we've been focusing on supporting 4 different kitchens on a long term. We really try to sustain them for like at least 2 months in advance. We know that for these kitchens, we're going to be able to support them financially to be able to produce 1,000, between 500 and 1,000 meals per day for all the displaced. And we really try to focus with these kitchens on where is the food also coming from to be able to cook this food. So we also link the kitchens to farmers and food producers that we know. that are from different regions, because obviously when the war starts, it really disrupts the food system immensely. A lot of wholesale markets get closed, a lot of roads get inaccessible, a lot of farmers can't sell their produce easily. So it really affects them a lot. So our role as civil society is also, especially as civil society that has been building networks of farmers for a long time, has been to make this link. So we've been in touch with a lot of farmers who have been selling their produce to us, and then we've been giving them to the kitchen so that they can also also the people who have been displaced can really have access to quality food that's nourishing and that's really appropriate right now, instead of going to the same old emergency aid that really sells canned food or imported food. So that's also the idea. And I think it's really, we've been noticing how in the past few years, especially in the past 5, 6 years, we've been really focusing on the idea of creating more coalitions and networks so that in times of crisis, we are ready, you know? So for example, we've been working really on creating these networks of farmers to expand agroecology practices, so sustainable farming practices that are peer-to-peer. So farmers visit each other. There's really a sense of community that's being created between farmers so that they also learn from one another. And it's not a competition, but it's more enhancing more cooperation between farmers. And then we see that in these times of crisis, having already these networks of farmers has helped immensely to know also how we can support and to also have them support the kitchens, because the need for food is immense in these times. And so it's been beautiful to witness how really this process has been built through many years of work. And also another project that we've been working on is a project called Land Stories. It's been 2 years that we've been writing different stories and articles. I can share the link of the website. It's land-stories.org, I think. I will share it by email maybe. And in the past 2 years, since the war started, we've been really trying to focus on farmers in the south as well. And really how, from the perspective of the farmer, how has the war been affecting their subsistence and their livelihood, their life. And we just released yesterday, actually, the story of Hadi, the friend that Natasha was talking about, who was doing the bioremediation work. We wrote the story during the ceasefire period of last year, and it's really interesting and even more relevant to share it now because now he's displaced yet again. And you can read it on the website. I can share the link with you later. Yeah, I think that's it. And I just want to share a little anecdote that yesterday there was a friend of Hadi who's a farmer from the south, whose name is Hussein. We've been in contact with him to see how we can also support him. So he was displaced in 2024 to Nabatieh, that's a city a bit further up, but that's still in the south because his village got destroyed. And now in this war, he got displaced again from Nabatieh because it's not a safe area to further north. And I met him yesterday personally because we were buying from him all the za'atar. Za'atar is a thyme that's a very important crop we have in Lebanon. And he was gathering thyme from different farmers and growers in the south so that we can buy it from him. And then we would like to really create different events around this time and the za'atar to sell it and to tell the story of farmers who have been cultivating za'atar and who have been displaced again and again and again. And when I met him yesterday, I really felt this sense of uprooting, like constant uprooting. He didn't know anything about Beirut. We met in Beirut and he didn't know where to go. And it was really something for me to witness that, and to say, okay, I don't know how they're doing, how they're able, as especially farmers, it's a whole different relationship with the land, to be uprooted again and again from your practice, from your place of livelihood, from your place of that you've been living from generations, and And even if there's a ceasefire, like Basia was saying, it's really a very long-term impact. And the white phosphorus and the glyphosate, these are the most destructive chemicals you can use in a land. And even if we don't know, like to be able to test these lands, it's going to take so much resource, and people are going to be scared of cultivating and of buying olive oil from the south and things like this. So it's really an attack on long-term livelihoods and return to these lands. So yeah, I'm not going to take any more time. I think there's one more presentation and then we can go to the Q&A.
Thank you, Yara, and everyone for sharing. I think I need to take just maybe a moment, after hearing this story. I think what I will share is not maybe more anecdotal also, and more like some more prompts of what has been coming up during this time. In the last escalation in 2024, I was based in Barcelona, and I was doing my master's in political ecology, and and all my friends who you're hearing from were here, and so it was quite a different experience from this time. The blessing of not hearing drones and bombs and jets, but also the difficulty of being far away from the people you feel with so much. That's also how I made the link with Alfred and how we connected. So I really have been shocked when I take a step back and really see the paradox of these moments, and really how much these moments of crisis are just unimaginable when you hear anecdotes like what Yara just shared, or the magnitudes of crisis and response, and just this flow of injustice and justice that are swirling, with each other. I can say, after living this last month and a half, it's the first time I lived through this type of escalation, and it does something in the body, and I think it's there's a tendency in these moments when there's unlimited need to really lose our ground sometimes, and to feel like there's always a necessity to be on the move. But again, there's this maturity of the incredible, movements and individuals in this land who have been teaching each other and reminding each other what it means to care for each other on different levels, to meet the immediate need, and also to meet the need of evolving how we understand our relation to land and our relation to each other, our definitions of safety and justice, and how to really make sense of this existential moment we live in this time. And like I've been thinking a lot about the concept of safety, and how different that safety is for each person in this moment. The safety of being heard from someone who's giving you their full attention, while being in a place that might be very dangerous, versus being somewhere safe and not having this intimacy. There's these notions of how these the ways we relate to the world get embodied in a way when we live these crises, that are really revelations of how we can really reconnect to each other in authentic ways. I've been involved since the escalation in 2023 in Gaza in a project called Coalitions of Belonging, where we use maps and cartography as a place of sense-making together. And this is kind of a continuation of the work that I was doing after the explosion in Beirut, of the port explosion in 2020. where we initiated a project of gathering herbal remedies from all different regions across Lebanon to share with people in Beirut. And the thing that surprised me the most in this journey that we did in 2020 and 2021 was that the herbal remedy never comes just by itself. It comes with a passage from someone to another. It comes with a type of stitch that comes on the packaging. It comes with a whole messaging that's to be transmitted to who receives it. It comes with histories. It comes with somatic rememberings of actually interacting with these, and through this experience, it really made me question, what are the spaces or the practices that we have lost silently through these crises that we're being invited to reclaim. And so the practice I've been doing through cartography is asking that when we come together and when we invite these different materialities of knowledge, sewing together, of eating together and cooking together, of gathering consistently, how does it change the way we actually understand what is happening, the way we talk about what is happening, the language we use? Do we get the permission to step out of this emergency mode and to be in a place where we're bridging these gaps that the violence has created? And I think it's something that a lot of people have shared, and that we feel that the scariest thing is that your enemy is the Zionist entity here, but there's always this looming potential of internal conflicts to become more violent between each other. And so it's to really ask in these moments that, okay, while all of this is happening, there is a strategy from the imperial entities is to break the social fabric and to break the narrative fabric and to break the ritual practice and to break the relation of what actually lets me and the person next door understand what we're talking about when we talk about justice, when we talk about liberation. And I think more and more over living this for 50 years since the Civil War and since the occupation of Palestine until now, that obviously there are going to be very, very harsh tears of the social fabric, and where you see it when you drive on the street and someone cuts someone off and something erupts. There's something that's been accumulating. And so I've been trying to focus my practice in how do we hold spaces to re-meet each other, to re-meet each other's narratives, to re-meet the traditions that hold over time the ways that we relate to land and to our collective cosmologies. So now I'm working at a place called the Beirut Art Center. With the escalation, of course, we decided to cancel kind of all the exhibitions that were happening and all the activities. And we decided to use the space as a hub for distribution and recollection of emergency aid. The collectives of Basima and Natasha and the work of Yara and Hassan and many friends kind of moved through the space at the same time. And for a month, we kept it open to kind of create this hub where not only is a big industrial space, it could hold this support, but also it can create this hub of exchange and interaction over time, which I think is, again, some of the unseen necessity in this moment. Recently, we stopped doing that to move into the more long-term project of how do we actually create places of sense making together. I can share more about this in the future. I can send more resources, but I think the prompt for this is really that, okay, for people to be able to come and share their stories and feel safe, to feel a shared sense of justice, what are the preconditions? And this is a bit what I mentioned earlier with what Alfred and Rosemary and Habiba hold. It's the necessity of holding context in what we do. It's that before we talk about the more abstracted, which are also very important modes of connecting to one another, there's a necessity to be there present on the ground. There's a necessity to feed and to make sure people sleep warmly before we talk about other types of belonging. But once we give that creates the space for also something extremely essential, which is how do we gather in these moments to make sense, to really understand what do we mean when we say justice? What do we mean when we're keeping each other safe? And yes, I'll leave it with that. And maybe an invitation, if anyone feels called to in the chat, to write where they feel safe or how they feel safe. And then I think we're going to share some links and some different pathways that whoever is interested can be in touch with us and can be in support in different ways. And then I think we're going to open it up for questions and answers.
So we can share this slide with everyone after the call as well. Is there anything the Lebanon crew would like to say about these different links?
Just that these are a few links of our initiatives, but maybe we can send a more thorough email later with more information.
I just added in the chat the link to our fundraiser page with also a lot of information about the work and the progress we've been doing over the years. But as Yara said, we can send a more thorough list with all the links and more information later on. I think it will be easier.
So yes, we will share this information by email with everyone who's registered on the call. And maybe now is a good time to open this up for questions and answers and conversation that Habiba can facilitate this conversation.
Yes, thank you. I think maybe it can be done naturally. Yeah, whatever, if somebody has any questions, testimony, comment to any of the participants, please. Yasmina?
Hi, Habiba. Nice to see
Hello, you too.
I'm Yasmina. I'm French Lebanese, and my family is from the Bekaa. I was born in Talabeya. For me, land is very, very crucial because this is what I grew up with, and both of my French and Lebanese family were on land. What I would like to add, I come from another generation who was there during the Civil War. So let's say all the young people that just had testimony today, they are the fourth generation knowing the crisis and the war in Lebanon. Where I would like just to add, when I came back after the war in 91, we were under two occupations, Syrian and Israeli. We had to be able, I've never went to the south until 2000, and we were not able to also interact in agriculture. It was very hard. Our land were taken by the Syrian, and the hands of the Syrian government wouldn't allow us to do any types of agriculture. They had the hand over agriculture. But what I would like to say is that because we are a country that has known the war since 48 at different stages, I think we can say we can be labeled or a trademark for crisis emergency. All the groups that started to help community, giving food, organizing doctors, organizing hospital, or bringing people that had were displaced, was already started really early on. I was one of the witnesses during the war, the Israeli attack in '96 of the Kana massacre. We were a freelancer activist and journalist. We went down and we went to UNIFIL, and we saw the destructions and the horror and the massacre of almost 160 people died, children among them, civilians, within the compound of the UNIFIL. What I want to say, sorry, because I go into different directions, but what I would like to say is that in the course of all these crises and wars and attacks and massacres, you have like an evolution of help from different groups. And we see that, we had seen that when the revolution started here in 2019. You already had groups that started to all mingle together, all different types of communities, different people from different regions. Suddenly it was open, north, south, east, west. We would go to the different regions, whereas it was very hard before that. We created a women collective, all of us, where we try to include the project of permaculture, the idea of interacting between these different territories and different communities to be able to help all each other and see what were the needs on the ground. What I see today is with whether it's Jibal, who started in 2016, I think, even before, is that this continuity is with this new generation that knows how to organize, knows how to put all the crises, taking the help and the different crises at a different level. And this interaction that they are embodying so well, whether it's the people from the north and the south, from the Shuf and from the different villages coming all together and having this hand. So I would say for the first time in Lebanon, among all these crises that happen, is to see that there is something stronger that really now is like coming up after all the different wars and help and NGOs and associations that came together. So it's a really something that we need to nurture, and I'm very thankful to see that, because I would have never thought that one day we would have such a big civil society coming together, whether they're from different background generation, and being able to work on the land, work on people, give them food, sustain these kitchen communities that started even during the Saura, but today so well organized. And if I may say, it's the first time that the government has been doing something where it's concerning shelters and displacement. First time in the 40 years that I've been in Lebanon, where they organized the school very suddenly and now have Jibal distributing food to the different kitchen and different NGO. Ahla Fawda is one of them that started during the revolution, giving food to the, I don't know, like 10 school, where each school has about 300 families to take care of. Also, you have another NGO that is helping families that migrants working here in Lebanon who no one took care of, and they also being sustained by the food, by the kitchens, by this young generation that is interacting in between the land and the agriculture and everything. And I'm sorry, I'm just I'm not very good in English, so I just want to say that hearing you, all of them, was just for me. It's a great honor to see that in Lebanon today.
Thank you so much, Yasmina, for this testimony. And yes, I agree that the intergenerational point is very important, because I think also maybe youth can bring things that maybe older people are a bit tired from, let's say, at the internal level, with so many, because these older people were young at the moment. And I think this interaction between different generations is very important in any context, but especially now, as you say, in the context of Lebanon. Thank you. Rosemary?
I'm profoundly moved by your words, Yara, Basima, Bulos, and Yasmina. And thank you, Habiba and Alfred. From my perspective, I had no idea how absolutely extraordinary you are. And I look at Yara and I can see you're tired, and I can look at Basima and it's not necessarily happiness. But I would like to repeat what Yasmina just said. I don't know any country in the world where the young of, say, the 20 to 40 age group is combining in this way and making the links. And this is going to provide a foundation. This is going to put down the deep foundations, because you're dealing in such difficult situations that are going to serve you into the future, whatever that future is. And your fatigue and sense of how big the job is and how much there is to do is obvious. But what is also obvious is that these networks, and I love Bulos' work there, are absolutely critical. What I'm always concerned about, like Basima and Yara and Bulos, are things like your basic needs. Can you get enough seed for planting, and the right seed? Who's saving specimens from the fruit trees for replanting and grafting? Is the war with Iran affecting your fuel supplies? Are you easily able to switch in any way to renewables? What's happening to your water supplies? I think those basic things need to be in place. I'm not sure. Someone said to me once, it's important to save one life. You are saving many, and in ways that they are going to be there with you and for you in the future. And really, I'm hoping that you will all give permission for us to use this talk, maybe to young activists in Australia, to my local permaculture group. Can we share it on international permaculture? We need to be showing and telling your story more widely. If you have questions about your name being used, or there are any reasons we don't do this, please let us know. But we would like to showcase you a little for the world, and perhaps have one of you come to Bangkok in November to talk about your situation in Lebanon, the International Permaculture Convergence. If you can think about that, I'll look for funds. Okay, I won't talk too much, but I am so moved. I'm going to go next door and tell my neighbours, even though it's my bedtime. Thank you so much.
Was it a question, Rosemary, about the water and the seeds and the...
Energy.
Okay, maybe I can answer quickly about this. So in Lebanon, Buzuruna is one of the main farms who are producing heirloom seeds in Lebanon. And in the past few years, they have been trying to develop networks so we can decentralize the seed saving practice from one farm to many farms. And that's how the network started with Basima and Natasha and others. We were a collective of 6, 7 farms who were saving seeds. But it started in 2022. But in the past few years, this really shifted because of the crisis. For example, one of the farms that was producing seeds was in the south. The land got destroyed. Another person, it was an economic situation where they couldn't, because there's a big issue of land access in Lebanon, where most lands are in the hands of very few. And so in the PePa, one of the members lost their land, so couldn't produce seeds anymore. And also economically, it's very hard to sustain ourselves through agriculture. So a lot of us had to also, most farmers have another job to be able to sustain themselves. So it's been very difficult to reproduce seeds in a decentralized way in these layered crises. But also, Buzurna is not the only one. There's also many different initiatives, also in the south and in different areas that have been distributing heirloom seeds. So this, in the past 5 years, let's say since the revolution, 2019, the agroecology movement, so including heirloom seeds and alternative inputs for agroecology production have really increased, and it's been beautiful to see this movement. Because a lot of social justice movements in Lebanon have really died down after the revolution because of how all the crisis really affected that. So the agroecology movement is one of the few that, in the contrary, really opened and developed beautifully. But I think it's always this tough position to have when we're in a crisis situation. Like we don't know how fast we need to go when it comes to, for example, we thought, as Jibal, for example, we thought, okay, maybe the farmers now in the south need access to inputs, to heirloom seeds, to compost, to alternative inputs to be able to also get out of the petrochemical fertilizer and pesticides because they're much more expensive now because of the war and the war with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and the fuel prices and things like this. But a lot of the farmers have been displaced. We can't think right now, for example, of I don't know, finding another piece of land where farmers can potentially build economies again because it's very soon. Like it's only been, for example, 2 months since the new escalation, and we don't know next week maybe they'll be able to come back and even emotionally, it's very tough for them to think, okay, I'm gonna plant my seeds in a new land right now, and the season is starting now. Now is spring, and it's very tough. It's a very tough place to be, and it's a very tough position to know how do we build long-term systems in a time where really it's shifting so fast, and we don't know what's gonna happen. So I think there's a lot of ideas and there's things that might be concretizing also soon to find alternative economies for farmers specifically that have been displaced. But as I said, it's very tough um, to to move with something when really the situation changes completely. And I don't know if that answers your question, but it's just to give an idea. But at least for the water, we had a very good winter rain-wise. Last year, it was a very bad year with the rain. It was probably one of the highest droughts last year. We were expecting this winter, if this winter doesn't go well, it's gonna be even worse. But we had a very good winter. It rained a lot. In Syria, also a lot of the rivers that were dried for the past few years got uh, are full of water. And another thing with Syria, because what happened is that after the ceasefire in 2024, the escalation, you know, obviously that the Syrian Nizam Assad fell and the Syrian regime fell. And so that opened also the borders that for 15 years were closed between Syria and Lebanon. And so also the agroecology movement has been linking a lot with Syria, and there's a lot of heirloom seeds producers in Syria we've been in contact with, and we've been exchanging seeds and knowledge, and we've been also visiting them. And it's much harder for Syrians to visit Lebanon for visa and stuff like this, also for Lebanese. But we've been able to keep this link, and obviously it's not about each country being self-sustained. It's really about also this interdependency that's also very useful in these times. So the link with Syria has also changed a lot of things for Lebanon and for us as a movement also.
Monica, Fabian.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you really very, very much for the introduction and all the effort that you are doing. I just have a question. Actually, I am teaching at AUB. I took the course with Alfred and Rosemary in the permaculture education, and I'm having an introductory course for permaculture for AUB student. And I'm always wondering, like, I know it's a different level, but somehow if there are just few students who can be moved from the topic and can move on. So you guys who really does practice in Lebanon and have many, many different initiatives, what do you think? What is the best approach to be able to hold on to these few students who might be interested and want to do something further and want to do something more in different permaculture approaches, either on the social level or maybe on the production level. But what could be the best approach to reach out to the students or to catch the students' attention to make sure that they can continue?
Does someone feel called? Or I can also, or Sashu.
I can just like quickly say that I think for me, the most important thing you can do is take them to farms, agroecology farms, like people who are practicing this, and just meeting them and seeing their stories, seeing the land. I think it's just so inspirational. And I think, I mean, if you need help in coordinating, organizing such visits and being put in contact with
My only
such people.
problem that actually in the last 2 years, when I'm teaching them in the fourth semester, we had 2024 war, and now we had the new war. And actually the students are afraid to go to the south. And whenever I want to like try to organize something, they are just, no, we are not going. So I have to be kind of like specific, where can I take them maybe more onto the north? So if you can help me out, like really good practices where really it's showcasing and I can take them over there, it would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a few farms active in the north doing that. But also, if someone else wants to take over and say more about this, I don't know.
Go ahead, Bruce.
No, I wanted maybe just to mention about Yara, you didn't share about Silla. Maybe Silla is a good.
But I wanted to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in Jibal we developed a program that's called Silla. And Silla in Arabic means link. And it's basically an alternative certification system that's called the Participative Guarantee System. It's a system that's been developed in many countries from the global south. And it's a certification system for agroecology where farmers and consumers participate in different visits in different farms so that they can certify each other in agroecology, and then they can have access to alternative markets. So it creates economies for these farmers, and it creates more links between the urban consumers and students and farmers from rural areas, and it really targets farmers from all over Lebanon. There's a few in the south, but there's a lot also in the north, in the Bekaa, in the Shuf. And we launched it actually 2 weeks before the escalation. It was the 15th of February. But it's still ongoing. Our colleague Karim, he's also part of the permaculture courses. He's the person leading on this project, and he couldn't be with us today. But we're very interested to be in touch with students specifically to involve them more into this practice. So we can share contact, and definitely we can take it from there.
Thank you.
I don't know, Bessie, if you wanted to say something also.
I was just going to mention that there was actually before the escalation, there was often events happening. There was one not so long ago in the agri movement in Saida, also talking about the seed laws. There is often events in Beirut, but now since the war, where nothing has been keeping going. But if you follow the pages of different groups that are being active on Instagram, you'll see often, if the situation stabilizes, events happening in places that aren't so compromised like the south.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And also, I want to add, inside there is the community garden Nahi al Ard, it's called.
Yeah,
So it's a very
I
good,
visit them many times. Yes.
so it's a very good example of how people are interacting with the land and the community, and also
Basically, this is the only place I know that active as community garden. So I always try to take the student over there to see. And it's really active and it's producing all the time, which is amazing.
yeah, it's a very good prototype, let's say. And also, I am a designer at Samadi Farm, which is in Ras Al Matin in Hasbaya Al Matin. So, and now we are preparing for the new season. So, you're more than welcome to visit and see how it goes. Students can also get introduced to how we uh, act with the shift of the season and how do we prepare, how to design, how to take things into consideration. And yeah, so you're welcome.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. I'm going to keep contact with all of you and take all the list of places. Thank you.
Okay, we are soon arriving to the end of the gathering. I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to ask more question or if anyone wants to share something. Please, we can take a few more minutes for this. Something that stayed on your mind. Okay. So thank you very much. Maybe I'll pass the word to Alfred for further maybe practical information and also maybe to close the call.
Thank you, Habiba, and thank you to everyone, but especially our comrades in Lebanon for sharing the work you're doing. And I'm just left with this sense that seeing the work that you're doing to build a new world within the shell of this old world that is destructing is giving me so much inspiration. And I want to spend less time doom scrolling and more time talking with you all, with doing things with you all, and also to help to be involved in organizing more of these calls along with Language for Justice and OGA. So we will share all of this information about the Lebanon groups and initiatives and so on. After this, I think we should create an email list and kind of help to consolidate these talks in order to promote them more widely in the future. And again, thank you to everyone. I don't feel like I can communicate well because I'm so impacted by what I've just heard and participated in, but thank you so much. And maybe I'd like to ask Anna and Daniela if they'd like to share anything as well.
Hi. It's so moving as you mentioned. I feel as well. So out of words, but I just want to thank you. Thank you for everyone for being here, for everyone who shared, and for our interpreters for the caring as well. It was really smoothly, and we are glad that it can reach more people in different languages. We will be sharing it, doing our best to make it to get each other networks as well in different countries. And yeah, we are here. I think more we get together, more we are collective, unifying, we can do more and resist. And I will remind again, today is in Italy, it's the Day of Liberation commemoration, in honor of the partisans from liberation from fascism and Nazis. And I think it's symbolic as a date, as a day today. So thank you so much for this beautiful and so necessary, actually, and also painful at the same time.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us.
Thank you so
We're not
much.
alone. We're connected.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.